What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. So today's video, we are going to be talking about 10 of Swords Chapter 12, X-Men number 14 by Jonathan Hickman and Lionel Francis Yu and Mahmoud Asrar. And in this video, Genesis is going to reveal to us exactly how she came to wield the helm of Annihilation, and more importantly, how much control she has over it. We're gonna talk about all that and more right now, but first, wash your damn hands and let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click.
When we kick this story off, we pick up immediately from where we left off with Stasis number 1, which was the middle ground, which was pretty much the halfway mark in 10 of Swords. And when we get to this part, we see Genesis and Apocalypse having a very interesting conversation between each other, because at this particular point, Genesis is truly the most powerful being, probably in all of mutantdom. Stronger than Apocalypse, stronger than the original recipe for Horsemen of the Apocalypse as well. Her own children, no less, and she has pretty much become even that much more powerful, wielding the helm of Annihilation. And even though, yeah, most of what we've gotten to learn about Genesis has been through tainted lenses, more or less, we've learned some about her by way of Summoner, who we now know unequivocally lied his ass off about everything that he told Apocalypse, though we do learn there are some truths in those lies, because a lot of this comic is actually going back and rehashing what Summoner told us in X-Men number 12, even using a lot of the same panels. Mind you, a fair chunk of this book is basically reusing those exact same panels, so that is something that I kind of took a little bit of umbrage with, but I get why they did it from like a storytelling standpoint, because it's basically to let you know this story is kind of reinforcing the mindset that there are 3 sides to every story. There's his side, her side, and somewhere in the middle you'll find the truth. Well, now we've seen Summoner's side, where obviously he was lying. Even Genesis says as much, that he manipulated the truth to spur an Apocalypse into acting on what the Arakans wanted, to get him where they wanted him. We've seen Apocalypse's side of the story, which is also somewhat tainted with rose-colored glasses, because he doesn't know the full truth about what's going on with Genesis. And now we are getting Genesis's side of the story, the whole and pure unadulterated truth, or at least as far as we can tell. I mean, one thing I will say about Genesis is that she is very forthright in a lot of what she says. She has no reason to lie to Apocalypse, and you can even kind of tell that in a lot of their conversation, you can tell there's still feelings. You can tell that she still cares about him. You can tell that she still loves him, despite the fact that she thinks that he's grown soft, that he's become weak. Regardless of how she treats Apocalypse and her little teasings and her jabs, I mean, at the end of the day, she's gonna tell him what's up. And her whole beef is survival of the fittest. That's what it was when she separated from Apocalypse and went to go and try and stop Amenth from crossing back through the portal, is ever since become even more her mantra. Now, one thing that came up during 10 of Swords, Stasis number 1, is the whole idea of, oh, well, wait a minute. They said something about a midnight blade. Well, wasn't it called a twilight blade? I'm pretty sure that was either A, an innocent editorial mistake, or B, a breadcrumb left for later. In this issue, it is still referred to as a twilight blade, as it has been pretty much the entire time that, you know, the story arc has been building up since House of X. Now, to let you guys know how serious I am here, some of you know I have a multi-monitor setup, and actually right now I have 4 monitors sitting in front of me right now. One monitoring my audio, another monitoring my video, and I have 2 monitors off to the side that have images of each of the pages from both X-Men number 12 and X-Men number 14, and I'm looking at both of them, and I can tell you right now, I have X-Men number 14 right here, X-Men number 12 right here, and I can literally look at them right now and tell you exactly exactly what the differences are between them. And like I said, from a panel perspective, art-wise, nothing's really changed. However, the dialogue definitely has. And now when we start this off, the story is roughly exactly the same as Apocalypse and Summoner both told us, because I think that's a part that Summoner really couldn't manipulate, considering the fact that Apocalypse would have been there to know the difference. You see, where things deviate is when we start getting to the schism, the separation between Apocalypse and his wife and children. And there's a part where she actually does bring up that, yeah, this had to happen. The schism happened. We were separated. She even says that the whispers in Arako of why the husband of Genesis, the father of the horsemen, remain behind, some kiss the edge of truth. Some are lies that offend me. And she even goes on to say that we, however, both know the real reason you stayed, and the only truth that matters is this. And this is something that is actually echoed by something that Summoner also said. And basically, he was just echoing what his grandmother is telling Apocalypse right now, that what should never have been cleaved in two was separated forever. Husband from wife, parent from child, Arako from Krakoa. But Genesis goes even deeper into it, because as he described it, the trauma of mutants of Arako, Summoner seemed to say, plunge themselves into the hell of the next one. But the way Genesis describes it, that even if you said that it sounded as if 1,000 angels died screaming bloody thunder, that number would be too low. That the sound was deafening, maddening, and was the alien song of the world Amenth. Now, of course, the rest of it goes on as we have talked about before. Everything else falls into place just the same. Iska, the whole 9 yards. The big difference is how it is described as when Iska approaches Genesis, because when Summoner told us about it, he said that no one knows what words were passed between them. But Genesis does reveal that Iska begged her to come and parlay with Annihilation. Now, where we get to this point is where there's some things that are told that Summoner did not talk about, and that is the Vile School, which she goes on to talk about that how when she entered the Great Hall, she saw what Amenth had basically put together, that they were breeding mutants with the Amenthi demons and creating this new warrior race and basically creating a new school of summoners. We've seen this technically solicited. It's called the Locust Vial, which is something I guess is supposed to spin out of all this, but it's assumed that maybe these characters are going to wind up being spun off from this Ten of Swords arc and will kind of be like heldovers from that. And essentially these are Amenthi demon Arakan hybrids. So they're like mutants and demons at the same time. Seems like a job for Magic to be keeping an eye on. Now, the difference here is that when Summoner told us this little story about his grandmother and dying at the hands of Annihilation, he was, of course, lying his ass off. That is not what happened. Genesis took the fight to Annihilation and defeated its wielder, but in doing so, defeating the helm means you take up the helm. And whoever wears the helm controls the entire land of Amenth. One interesting thing we learn is that Genesis did, in fact, win the helm, but she did not wear it immediately. She didn't immediately pick up the helm and decide to control the Amenthi horde. You see, what she learned is after 100 years of denying the helm, of keeping the helm at bay, not wearing it, 100 total years, she realized that without wearing the helm, if there's not someone there to control the horde using it, the horde will just run roughshod and start destroying everything. Not only that, but the horde started running roughshod on Arako, and she literally sat by and watched as the towers and the civilization that they had built on Arako had fallen, and she still refused to wear the helm. And not only that, but the mutants who were still on Arako, who still had the power to fight back and were, still alive, they started using forbidden magics and opening the chasm that was originally closed. The same chasm that she remembered sealing, and remembering that sound, that deafening sound that basically broke her heart so much. These opened it again because they forgot their own history. They forgot how many people died to close that chasm in the first place, and then they went and reopened it. And it wasn't until then that after this happened, after the chasm was reopened, that she finally broke and put the damn helmet on. But when she did so, she thought that maybe she had the power to control the helm, to dominate it and bring it to her will. but she did not have that kind of power. For as powerful as Genesis was, at the end of the day, she is no match for this elder god horror that she now wears upon her face. With her wielding the helm, Annihilation still marched upon Arakko and razed everything to the ground. And that is how the original recipe for Horsemen wound up aligning themselves with Annihilation, more or less. And as Genesis says, the Helm of Annihilation wants it all because it wants it all. There is no reason behind it. There is no reasoning or logic behind what the Helm of Annihilation thinks. And because Genesis wears the Helm of Annihilation, her wants and desires are aligned with the helm. So if the Helm of Annihilation wants everything, regardless of right or reason or wrong or logic, so too does she. She even admits that the price she paid was her greatest victory and at the same time her greatest defeat. And Apocalypse thinks that maybe you did give yourself over to this dark entity. However, Genesis was the strongest person that he has ever met. She must be able to fight it. But even Genesis has to admit, no one is that strong. She fights for it, nothing more, nothing less. And because it wants everything, she wants everything. And the thing that she wants more than anything else right now is Krakoa. Now, the problem we run into here is that Krakoa is not hers to take, as Apocalypse so informs her. But Krakoa is a place where all mutants are welcome, and that Genesis, as well as their children, are more than welcome to be there, to live there, and to live in peace, and to not have to worry about the trifles of war and combat. They could live, for the first time probably in their lives, a normal life. But Genesis, because she has been forged in war, because she has been battle hardened by it, and by proxy becoming corrupted by the Helm of Annihilation, she tells Apocalypse a very hard truth that I think is something that has been brought up on multiple occasions by other characters in the X-Men universe, namely Wolverine. And what she says is that, can it last? Because Arakko was forged in war, strong and fit, built to truly endure. What you have made, was it with soft hands and raised on a soft earth? I look at you and I think so. And even beyond all that, something that is kind of a very interesting line that we see get thrown at Apocalypse is that she is going to see what Krakoa has to offer by the end of all of this, and what Apocalypse still has to offer by the end of all of this. Basically letting him know that if Krakoa is found wanting, it will likely be destroyed and remade in a Amenth fashion, and Apocalypse himself will likely suffer a very similar fate, or worse, just simply be killed. She seems to be offering Apocalypse an opportunity to basically strengthen himself and change his attitude towards Amenth, and maybe hopefully rejoin her side. But this once again goes back to what we talked about in the previous issue of Stasis #1 with the Lover's Tarot card. The fact that this card basically represents two people who either are currently or once were lovers, and having to actually make a choice, a compromise, trying to figure out the way forward, whether or not they can compromise and see eye to eye, whether or not the path forward for one is the path forward for both of them. And that is basically why I think Apocalypse was so upset with that card, is because not only did it reveal his wife to him, but it also revealed to him that if she is still alive, if she is involved in this in somehow, some way, he is going to have to make a choice. And we all know that one of the things that I think a lot of people probably remember about House of X is exactly how Apocalypse responded to the idea of Krakoa. He was happy, he was proud, he finally saw the species that he has helped try to lift up throughout his years, albeit through spurious means. He saw what they were doing and that they finally achieved something that he never could, and that was a peaceful mutant society where mutants stood above all others. Will Apocalypse give all that up to stand by his estranged wife, despite the fact that she's been corrupted by an Amenth elder god. And like I said, Arako, corrupted by Amenth as it is basically just a mirror image of what Krakoa is. They even have very similar rules. The rule of make more mutants. Now, where things deviate is when they say destroy our enemies as opposed to kill no man. And then, of course, their final rule, whereas Krakoa, they say respect this sacred land. In Arako, it's defend this broken land. So yeah, I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on here, man, and I'm here for it. I like what I'm seeing. We'll definitely say that this was a very much needed issue to kind of hash out some things between Apocalypse and Genesis, largely because we didn't know much about Genesis and we've learned so much. The last two issues, this issue and Stasis, have basically informed us so much about Genesis that we did not know. And we still don't know everything is the even crazier part, is that we've literally spent the last, I would actually go as far as say 2 1/3 issues talking about Genesis, and we still only know so much about her. We know that she is the most powerful mutant that probably has ever walked the earth. We also know that she's even more powerful because of her wielding of the Helm of Annihilation. And we also know that she is probably the one thing right now that is keeping the Arakans from just running roughshod all over Krakoa as it is. Saturnine's rules be damned. Yes, those are actually keeping things in a more organized and uniform state, but it seems like Genesis does have some sway over the Arakans and the Amenth in more than just controlling the Horde, but also in terms of keeping them from just acting willy-nilly or acting in their own self-interest. But anyways, I really enjoyed this issue. It was nice to kind of clear up some things. I will say, once again, I wasn't crazy about the idea of just reusing pages from an issue that was really not that far off, but I get why they did it. It was mostly meant as a storytelling device to make sure that you lined up all of these things together and you were able to put together what was a truth and what was a lie. And I totally get why they did it. Maybe I wish they would have done it a little better. I don't know. We'll see. Before we get out of here though, I do want to let you know this Saturday, I'm going to be on twitch.tv/nerd901. We're going to be doing our extra live stream, raising money for Lebanon Children's Hospital. And it's one of those things that anyone who's followed this channel for especially within the last year, it's something that I did earlier in the year. That time we were doing it for St. Jude. This time we're going to be doing it for the benefit of Lebanon Children's Hospital. And I do want to let you know, and I know times are hard, and I know things are crazy right now, but there are some other things out there that we can do to try and help make the world a slightly, I don't know, more normal place for some children who are suffering from diseases and viruses and afflictions that they have absolutely no control over. If we could actually do even a little bit to try and help fix that for them, I think that in and of itself makes us real superheroes. So don't forget, November 7th, I hope we get to see you come by. We're going to be streaming live on November 7th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I'll be dropping in for a little bit before we start the Blerd Cave on Saturday, that same Saturday, and I'll also be back on after the Blerd Cave. We'll be playing video games like Fortnite, Dead by Daylight, Phasmophobia, Among Us, Marvel's Avengers, Second Extinction, Mario Kart, and various and sundry other games. It'll be really awesome, and I hope you guys get to come by and join in on the fun. Anyways, let me know what you thought about Ten of Swords Chapter 12, X-Men number 14 by Jonathan Hickman, Lionel Francis Yu, and Mahmoud Asrar. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in $1, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra.